the benefit of landing pages is that you're directly controlling the flow of traffic to these pages. You know exactly what they saw beforehand. You're the one who created that demand. You know what the hook, the angle, whatever context that was, what stage they are in kind of this funnel.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of What's Working in E-commerce. I'm your host, Egan Heath. I'm a partner at Asymmetric Marketing, and you can check out some of the work we do with our clients at asymmetric.pro. Today, we're talking all things landing pages and how to convert more visitors into sales and more. Today, I have Kanika. Kanika, thank you so much for joining. You are from BedaBeda Growth. And you are a landing page and CR expert, so we're excited to learn from you. Thank you for coming.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to get into it and hopefully share something helpful today.
Right on. Yeah, maybe you could just tell us about the process of when you're doing performance marketing like this for e-commerce companies. How do you approach building a landing page that converts at a high level?
I love it. I love the question, and I love that we're diving right into it. So one thing I think a lot of people do, which I don't necessarily recommend, is they just go and see what others are doing, right? They might go and peek in the ads library and try to go through some flows, which I do think it's a good kind of preliminary research step, but it also can set people in a very wrong direction because you have no idea how it's converting. You have no idea who their really specific customers are. You don't know their AOV. You don't know just all of the metrics in the back end or behind the scenes. It's okay for inspiration, but the better process is to follow a research-guided, data-driven approach. So how do you do that? First thing you want to do is, if you haven't already, before you get started with building a new landing page, anything like that, install some sort of heat mapping, video recording software. There's a lot of options out there. My favorite is actually something called Mouseflow. It's not the most popular. I don't know why it hasn't really been maybe well marketed throughout the US, but it is a heat mapping and video recording software. The reason I like it a lot is because it gives you a lot more data than a lot of the competitors. It gives you some more interesting things that you don't typically see otherwise. But if you're not quite at that level where you need the more advanced metrics, that kind of thing, Microsoft Clarity has advanced leaps and bounds over the last couple of years, and it's completely free. So that's a big edge that's hard to beat for a lot of folks, and it works well. So you can sign up for a free account. You just install the little snippet onto your site, if you're already using landing pages and you want to optimize them, install it onto your landing pages and let that run for a couple of weeks. And what that's going to do is start gathering data and, more importantly, show you exactly what people are doing on your current site. Because when you build a lander, you don't necessarily want to start just from scratch and just guessing what people use and how they interact and what's useful to them. So instead, let this run, collect data for 2 weeks, and then go and see what are the top 5 things that people are clicking. And if your landing page that you're building is for maybe your hero product, right? You sell one specific good or one specific service. Okay, what are the top 5 things people are clicking when they go to your current page for that? Great. What are the top 5 patterns that you see behaviorally? So this means that you're going to now flip over to video recordings. And this is actual live sessions of people browsing through your site. And if you don't know that's a thing, it is a thing. People are often shocked and they're like, oh my God, isn't that creepy? Kinda. But it's extremely helpful. You can't see who the person is to take out that creepiness factor. It's nice. You can see where they're from. You can see their browser. But that's about it. You can see the device.
I appreciate you starting here of let's see how people are using the site, and appreciate the shout on the tools too. For the longest time, it was all about Hotjar, and I really am seeing Microsoft Clarity take over. I noticed Microsoft Clarity has AI analysis of each session to tell you what did this person do, because that was always the question for me is when you see the screen recordings or the heat maps or whatever in Hotjar, whatever tool you have, there's always this kind of, okay, then what do we do with it? How do we get to analysis and some optimizations or things like that? So it sounds like that's what you're getting into before you're even starting any landing page. You want to see how do people use the website.
Exactly that. And yeah, Clarity does have some cool AI features. I would say on the video recording side, it's okay. I think don't lean on it too heavily. And the reason for that is even AI isn't necessarily smart enough to be able to understand those patterns and really make those inferences, it's one of those things that does require a human brain. And the reason for that is simply because every website is different, right? If every website used the same template, AI could crush it. It could tell you exactly what to do. But because if you had a site and I have a site and the next 5 people we run into, they have their own sites, there's not going to be a single element that's exactly the same across them. So take the AI with a little grain of salt, but absolutely use those tools and exactly what you said. Figure out what people are doing now, figure out the patterns of behavior, and then you're going to make sure that you integrate those into your landing page.
Pretty interesting. So you mentioned where people click, and you say, I'm making note of people, they like this button or they seem to like this call to action. I'm going to then use that on the lander I'm building. Is that right?
Exactly that. Maybe, for example, if you have like a food product and tons of people are looking at the nutrition label, you want to prioritize that pretty heavily on your site. Or if you have another, maybe it's a service and you have a money back guarantee, or you have some sort of deal if you come back, it's a cleaning service. You get your second cleaning for 50% off. If people are scrolling down to that, clicking on it, if they seem like they're engaging with it with video recordings, make sure that you don't leave that out of your landing page. And depending on how often you're seeing this behavior, if it's one of the most clicked elements, or if you're just seeing it every darn time you watch a video recording, make sure that's prioritized pretty heavily up there on your landing page.
Pretty interesting. So it sounds like we're looking at what do they click on, but also what are they scrolling to? What are they spending time on? What's the information it seems like people are looking for? Is that right?
Exactly that. Are
there any other notes that you might jot down when watching these screen recordings or analyzing heat map?
Yeah, one of the kind of hardest parts about analyzing these is trying to figure out what's missing because it's not on the screen. So if you're seeing a lot of people go all the way down and then go all the way up, it's more likely than not that there's something that they're not getting. And it's up to you to figure out what that could be. And so there's a few ways that you can try to identify this. One of the best ways is, frankly, just to get somebody who is not that familiar with your brand or your product, just to go through your site and get their feedback. Call up a friend, call up a family member, just get somebody with fresh eyes.
Yeah, that's great. We had a few people come on talk about user testing, and we had Quinn Zeta from Conversion Crimes is a great tool if you want to pay people to do this, and there's a couple others that do user testing like that, and sometimes that gives you a great start even before we're moving into A/B testing or anything like that. So yeah, what are people wondering about that you can't hear in those silent recordings, right?
Exactly that. And I'll be a little bit contrarian here and say, take user testing a little bit with a grain of salt. And why I say that is because when it comes to surveys, when it comes to user testing, we're all human. And there's an element of answering questions like that where many people say what they think they're supposed to say. They try to match expectations. And when you ask people one thing, but then when you also just watch what they're doing in reality, sometimes those things really conflict with each other. So it's useful information, it's directional, but do not take that as gold, because more often than not, people will say something and do the opposite.
Yeah, and there's a whole fascinating part of human psychology all about that, right? Of revealed preferences and things like that. Of here's what they say, here's what people say they're going to vote, or they would buy this for this price, and then do they actually do it? So that's a great reminder. Okay, you've done your homework. You see how people are using the site. Is there a piece on are you doing research on customer persona, on kind of the selling points? Are you reading through reviews? Is there like a copywriting sort of research part of this as well?
Yeah, all of the above. So one of the big parts of our external research is to get a better grasp of that customer persona. You probably have a decent idea of who's purchasing from you if you've been in business for a little bit. If you don't, frankly, one of the best ways to understand your customer's persona is just by starting to run ads, test different things, test different hooks that are going to appeal to different audiences, and start seeing which one performs the best. Do that before you get to landing page testing, because frankly, you want to get your ads cranking. You want to get them to a decent foundation before you really worry about post-click. Get your pre-click efficient enough to be sustainable. But then go a little bit deeper. So one of the biggest parts of our research is actually going into forums. So there's tons of dedicated forums, there's Facebook groups, and of course the very best one is Reddit. So you can start searching for your company's name, see what people are saying behind it. You might get a little surprised, you might get a little bit offended, but it's really good stuff to understand. And most importantly, see what people are asking each other, right? What are they wondering about your product or service before they purchase? What are they asking each other in terms of how it works, or what they're scared about, what they're nervous about, what they don't understand? And that's going to give you a really good foundation, again, of information that you need to include It's going to start filling in the holes of who these people are, how they want this to fit in their lives, and of course, what might be stopping them,
Yeah, sounds like we need to seek out feedback, sometimes brutal, unfiltered feedback
right?
to really understand. I think that's great copywriting then to get in that person's mindset. What might they be thinking when they're using this page? Anything else you can say about that process? Or maybe do you have a template that you go through, or how much time do you spend on this? I'm just curious. It sounds like this is a couple weeks up front.
Yeah, we actually do. We have a template that we use internally. We spend about a week and a half, and we try to do as much as possible, as quickly as possible, because we also don't want to delay the time to get the landing page up too much. So ideally, you have a few different members of the team that can take responsibility for these different pieces of it, because then there's other things that we haven't discussed, right? So there's like a heuristic analysis from a design UX UI perspective. So somebody who has that UX UI background who could say, oh, this is a little clunky, this is a little bit difficult on the site itself. How can we make that a smoother process on the landing page? Or, people aren't really understanding how to customize this, for example. Okay, how can we make that clear on the landing page? But yeah, long story longer. It's definitely a long process. It's worth it to set that foundation, but don't elongate it so much that it's going to stop you from launching, or it's going to make that process one which crushes your timelines in the worst way.
Yeah, that's great. I know you've got some great examples you're going to show us here. I do want to ask, or maybe you could set a little history for anybody who's not familiar. Why do we use landing pages? And isn't this a little different than just, hey, I got pages on the website, can't people buy from that? I remember that as part of iOS 14, where we just needed it because the ads cost so much more on Meta, or the performance was dipping so much. But maybe take us on a quick little jaunt through that of, what are landing pages and why are we using those instead of maybe the regular website?
Yeah, I love this question. I think it's probably the number one question that people have when it comes to optimizing and where they should focus. The best answer I have is that you need to optimize both sides, and they're different pieces of the buyer journey. Your site pages have to be this generalized source of information. It's a one be all end all for everything, because people are coming there from every single source that you could imagine. Maybe it's their mom's best friend's son's daughter. That's weird. Told you about it. And they came to the site. Maybe they saw an ad 2 months ago and they came to the site. Maybe they're a returning customer. Maybe they came from different social source. Maybe they came from email. There's so many different combinations of folks who land there that you don't really know their intent. You don't know how familiar they are with the product. You don't know if they're top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. You don't know what context they've had beforehand. So you don't know if they already understand most of how this works, or they're completely fresh and new. So your product pages or your site pages, they need to be generalized enough where they can make sense to people no matter where they are in that really wide spectrum. So you do need to focus there, but the benefit of landing pages is that you know this information, right? You're directly controlling the flow of traffic to these pages. You know exactly what they saw beforehand. You're the one who created that demand, right? That's demand gen. Exactly what they saw beforehand. You know what the hook, the angle, whatever context that was, what stage they are in kind of this funnel. Do you know, are they somebody who didn't even know this is a problem in their life, right? So they're not even solution aware. They're barely problem aware. Okay, what is the content? What is the information you need to put on the landing page for them? Oh, or are they people who are really aware of the market and now they're just at a stage where they're comparing you to your top two competitors? Okay, then that page is going to focus very heavily on your competitors, your review, just trust factors. You don't need to educate them so much on how it works. And then same thing for bottom of funnel. They're just about there. Maybe they're just super price hesitant. Maybe there's just one little thing that is stopping them. Great. That page can then focus on money back guarantees, warranties that you have, customer service, anything that's just going to get them over that last little hurdle. Landing pages are fantastic. You're spending a lot of money to get people to your site. You know exactly what's getting them interested, and you can control and contain that journey so that it's very personalized, very customized to exactly what they want and expect. Site pages, still extremely important, but they just cannot be that custom. So you're just not going to be able to hit as hard on those site pages as you can on landing pages.
Yeah, that's great. We really know the context. We know they were scrolling through Instagram or Facebook before this. We can potentially infer where are they at in the funnel. And so are we speaking to their pain, their desire? Do we need to differentiate between other brands? Kind of classic copywriting. That piece all makes sense. I love it. Anything else on your process that you want to talk about before we take a look at a few of these?
I think that's the gist of it. I think there's a lot of little intricacies that you can get caught up in, but as long as you do your research on your customers and how they're already interacting, figure out kind of their needs, their wants, their hesitations, and then understand what are the biggest pieces that you need to include that may be confusing or maybe those hesitancy or those objection busters. If you have that, then you have a good foundation to go ahead and get started.
Yeah. And it sounds like the short version on it is of you will convert at a higher rate if you have, dedicated landing pages for your paid traffic rather than you're sending your paid traffic just to some subpage on your site.
Absolutely. I do think that there is a little bit of a sudden understanding, as you said, with iOS 14, everyone thought landing pages are now this magic bullet. Just like everything else in performance marketing, it takes some iterations usually. Sometimes you get lucky out of the gate and wow, this thing's converting like crazy. Don't bank on it. Just like ads, just like when you're starting anything fresh, that's going to be the first try at it. But you're not always going to bat a home run, right? You're not going to. So take that. Again, do the same process I just walked through once you launch. Watch the video recording, see what's working, see what's not working, and keep going. And then if you do that, then 100% what you just said, if you use dedicated landing pages, they will convert higher than your regular site pages.
Yeah, that's great. Go ahead and pull up what you have. I'd love to see it. I'll just say as you're doing that we've had some CRO people on as well, others, and they said, if you run 10 split tests, expect 2 to 3 of them to improve results for you. So it's good to have realistic expectations going into anything.
That's such a good point. I think the CRO has become a little bit warped. I think there's been a lot of attention on it over the last 2 years, really. And so I think that there's been a unfortunate understanding that every other test you run or every test you run is going to come with a win. Unfortunately, that's not the case. And yeah, those stats are right on. I think 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10 is pretty standard, especially in-house. I think it's closer to 2 out of 10. If you have an agency running it who's doing this day in and day out, typically those numbers are a little bit higher, closer to 3 to 4 out of 10.
Yeah. Great to set the expectations. Talk us through what we're seeing here on screen. Some people might just be listening to this too, so we might describe and even read from this great looking page.
100%. So this is a page that I want to share because it has been consistently performing at an incredibly high level for a very long time now. So this is a landing page. It's a dedicated lander for a air purification product. And conversion rate has been 7% plus for a very long time.
Wow, excellent.
Which is pretty high, yeah. The process that we went through to create this is exactly what I talked through before. We are very big believers in copy, direct response copy specifically, because copy is the best conduit strategy, right? You can have a gorgeous page, but if the copy sucks and it doesn't really make sense and it doesn't resonate with the customer, fortunately, it's not going to do what you want it to do. It's also why a lot of people say, I heard ugly pages convert better. That's not necessarily the truth, but the truth behind that is more likely people are paying more and more attention and spending a lot more time crafting that copy on the ugly pages than the design. So it ends up looking maybe not as aesthetically pleasing, but the copy is on point.
Yeah, that's great. Can I read this headline here? I just love this.
Yeah, please.
Give your lungs a break from filthy indoor air with the purification solution your body and wallet will love. What a great headline.
Thank you. No, I love this one too. The goal here is to be aspirational. Give your lungs a break and really tell them what the benefit is. So give your lungs a break from filthy indoor air. So there's the problem right there. We're telling them, here's the benefit you're going to get. And we're starting to bust that initial hesitation a lot of people have with air purification out of the gate, which is price, right? Air purification machines or whatever, right? Air purifiers are pretty darn expensive. This is a very low cost solution to accomplishing a lot of the same benefits.
Yeah. In thinking back to the copywriting, it's just like the filthy indoor air. Here's the problem, maybe agitate it a little bit. Give your lungs a break. We're future pacing into here's the value and the purification solution your body and wallet will love. So it's healthy and it's not going to break the bank. So there's a lot happening. Every just couple of words. I know we were talking poetry before this. It's very concise and a lot happening in this short little phrase, isn't there?
Yep, you're exactly right. I think the key with copy is to be extremely intentional. So what you said is dead on. Every single word you choose needs to have real meaning. Don't use fluff. Edit it down as much as you can to be as concise as possible, but every word needs to really pack a punch, for lack of a better term.
And it's powerful bodily language. It's not abstract, be more healthy. It's like, filthy, filthy indoor air, give your lungs a break. Like, it's bodily. So I love that. Even the wallet piece, where it's almost conceptual, save money. It's a physical, tangible thing I can pick up. I'm going to keep reading if that's okay.
Yeah, please do.
Here's the copy. The air in your home is dirtier than you can imagine, and traditional air purifiers cost hundreds of dollars and constant hassle. Enjoy pure, clean air that your body will thank you for with the bold, revolutionary carbon air filters that stick right on your ceiling fan. And the call to action, breathe easier. And I see there's free shipping as well.
Exactly. So you read that very beautifully. Thank you, Egan.
I was excited. I love copywriting.
Awesome. Me too. We share that. But yeah, we kept going on that same initial message. So here's the problem again. The air in your home is extremely dirty. It's such a hassle. It's really expensive to deal with traditional air purifiers. Here's a solution, right? We're going to give you that pure, clean air. Your body's going to love it. And here's what it is. I think people can get really caught up in copywriting sometimes, and they get to, what you're saying before, they get a little too vague. They get so benefits driven that people are like, okay, this sounds awesome. I want clean air. I want my lungs to be happy, but what the heck is this thing? So we want to make sure that we're also very crystal clear on what exactly this product is.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about that because in the image, so we see the package, nice branding. We see some little pads down below, and then we see this fan. I admit it took me a little while to catch on, but it's like we said, it's you stick these pads right on the fan, so it's tangible in that way. What's interesting, there's no faces, there's no humans, there's no people or lifestyle, anything. I imagine you've thought of that, you've tested that, but you landed on this. Can you talk about the images at all?
Yeah, exactly. This product is like a blue ocean product, right? It's not something that is really quickly recognizable. It's not something that people are used to seeing because it just doesn't really exist otherwise. So instead of when you have people in the image, you're forced to make the actual product, the packaging, much smaller. So instead of showing it with people where you can't really show them necessarily breathing fresh air, right? That's impossible to imagine. We wanted to instead show them, here's what it looks like, and then here's what it looks like in action. And that's why we have that little kind of cutout of a ceiling fan with these stuck to it. So even though this product is new, it's not something that people are going to recognize. We're trying to educate them really quickly and show them, here's what you're going to get. So set that expectation. And here's exactly how it works in your home and on your fans.
Very cool. Call to action, breathe easier. It's very obvious this is a button. There's nothing else that color necessarily on here. Free shipping, $35 plus, and then 100% money back guarantee, risk reversal. It's pretty short and sweet. It's simple here. If someone hits breathe easier, does that go into the shopping cart and it's time for checkout, or what happens?
Nope. So we've tested this format a ton. And because the point of a dedicated landing page is to warm them up, right? You're trying to get them educated so that by the time that they get to the purchasing action, they have the information they need. So instead, what happens when people click this button, it actually scrolls them down to a dedicated section of this page, which is like a dedicated product section, right? So it has all the specs, it has the information, it has the ability to purchase straight from here. The reason that we do this, and we've tested this so many times, as people are scrolled down automatically, they realize, oh, there's a bunch of other content up there. Okay, let me go back up and read this now. The problem, and I think the mistake a lot of people make, is in that hero section, people will have the button and it'll take them straight to checkout, for example, or it'll take them to the product page or another buying page. If you do that, one, you're doing yourself a disservice because no one's going to see the rest of the page that you worked so hard on. And two, people don't have enough information to make a decision at that point, right? You push them further along, they're closer to making a decision, but they're not quite there yet. So if you just push them straight into cart or checkout, the chances of them abandoning is very high.
Pretty interesting. It's really a micro conversion. Push the button. Yeah, I'm ready to learn more, but it's not time to pull out the credit card. It's time to educate. And then here I do, like you said, there is a one-time purchase or a subscribe and save option here. It's almost a combination education landing page and then almost like an add to cart type product page.
Exactly. It has both. And I always recommend testing this. I would say a few years ago, it was actually same type of strategy I would use. Make sure that they're on the landing page, make sure that they can read the content. But then from here, the section that has pricing, it has more product images. This GIF is a little crazy. I think this has been switched. We had a carousel before. Mm-hmm. For those who can't see it, there's a GIF that's switching around pretty quickly. I think it's okay. It shows the product, it shows the packaging, but it's moving a little too fast where I assume it's probably causing some friction.
It's almost like unboxing though of I see it come out. Maybe it's going through fast, but okay, this is what's going to arrive when I order this. I can imagine myself tangibly like pulling the adhesive off and then slapping this basically on a fan.
Exactly. So I think the illustration here is good. Maybe the pace is a little too fast, but with this section, it gives them kind of all the rest of the specs, the details that they may need to make that purchase. And the one thing I would say is if you try this at home or in your office, test the buttons. So whether it's subscribe and save and one-time purchase, whether it brings them straight to checkout and gets them right through to the rest of the kind of end stages, or if this actually goes and pushes to your organic product page. Those are two different paths that I've actually seen shift a lot in the last few years. If you asked me this question 3 or 4 years ago, straight to checkout, almost 7, 8 times out of 10, that was the way to go. I'd say it's flipped now. 7, 8, maybe even 9 times out of 10, having these buttons go to the product page, the organic product page, has tended to yield better results. And I think it's because people just want a little bit more control. I don't know why that's changed from 3 or 4 years ago, but I feel like people just experience that, okay, I've made my decision. Now let me just go to the product page because that's what I'm used to. And then I'll convert from there, but test it for sure.
Yeah, sort of web expectations evolve and what people do on their smartphone. That makes sense. This is very clean, very, simple overall. Anything else to call out about this landing page you think people could mimic or learn from?
Yeah, I would say, sorry, I'm hopefully not going too fast, how to use it. If you have a product that's again, pretty new, people aren't used to it, it's not really a, for lack of a better term, commodity, definitely show how it's installed, especially if there might be concerns over that. So for these customers, it's a fan that's on their ceiling. So how do they install it? So this is one way. There you go. If you can just get up there, then this is easy. I believe we have a section further down that shows somebody kind of standing on a chair to do it as well.
Yeah. Heavy use of GIFs on this page, and that's probably a good alternative to embedded videos that might slow the load time.
Yeah, it's not, if you can avoid GIFs and videos altogether, then great. That's going to be much faster. But never sacrifice education and clarity for speed. Because the reality is, unless it's like insane, unless this thing just isn't loading for people, the reality is you want to communicate and you want people to understand more than you want them to have the fastest experience in the world. Best case, you can do both, but don't sacrifice clarity for speed.
Yeah, love it. Here's another great headline. What if you could make a massive impact on your long-term health for just 25 cents per day? Breaking it down by day, that's not too hard, right? Anybody could swing that. I love that.
Exactly. And this is what I wanted to call out is people who are in the market for air purifiers, even though this is significantly cheaper anyways, this is just one of those last things that, how could you refuse this? It's 25 cents a day. It's going to be a big impact on your long-term health. You have no reason to say no, right? So anything that you can do to squash price hesitation, and if you can quantify it in a way that just makes it feel like a no-brainer, absolutely do that. Reviews you should always use. I think people who, when you're making claims, when you're making, it's not necessarily promises, but when you're telling people, hey, this is going to make a difference, they're going to naturally ask, okay, how do I know it's working? And this is one of those things that you'll probably uncover during your preliminary research, whether that's reviews, whether that's just customer questions, people writing in, whether it's ad comments. And so if you do have science behind it, it's very powerful to tell people, hey, this is science backed. Here's how you know it's working. So squash any major questions, give it an entire section on the page if you can.
That's great. I literally had that thought as you were showing this, so I love that you jumped to it. It's like anticipating those objections, just like you said. Effective marketing is taking that, what you do in a one-to-one sales approach, and going one-to-many.
That's exactly it. And I think you mentioned this earlier, is what are the other pieces of the process? Review mining is huge, but even better, maybe not better, equally as important, ask your customer service team if there's something or many things that pop up a lot, people ask before they purchase. That's a gold mine. And then definitely ask your ads team. So even if they hide comments, I recommend, actually, I used to be in paid ads as well, reply to them. If it's something that a lot of people are asking and probably wondering about, reply to them. If you have a good answer, then everyone who's wondering that will see it. But if you do feel like hiding it, have them take notes about it, send it to you. And one of the most successful landing pages we ever had was one where the headline was that number one hesitation question. It was for a product that cleaned sponges, funny enough. And everyone asked, it was fairly expensive for what it was. And the number one question over and over and over again was, can't I just stick my sponge in the microwave to clean it? And so the whole hero section, the first kind of 2 sections of the page were talking about that and telling people, no, that's not the right way to do things. Here's why. And it was extremely successful because, just like you said, we read their minds and answered it right out of the gate.
I'm thinking back to the classic Squatty Potty ad basically on YouTube, and it was, can't I just stack books up next to the toilet so my legs are higher? And you're like, you could, but that's gross or something. Like that's...
Exactly. Just make it just as ridiculous as the questions people are asking if you need to. And Squatty Potty is such a fun brand. If you can have fun with it, even better.
Yeah, love it. I see you've got a whole basically collapsible or uncollapsible FAQ section. Sounds like answering these FAQs can be the difference of increasing your conversion rate or not.
That's exactly it. Make sure anytime you make a dedicated landing page, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't add an FAQ at the bottom. Every time we've added one, it helps boost them. So we just use that as table stakes. Have an FAQ. Typically try to keep the FAQ between 5 and 6 questions. More than that gets a little overwhelming. You should be able to answer that within the page itself, but aim for 5 to 6 and you'll help your customers, especially those who are skimmers, get the quick answers concisely and quickly.
I see there's a live chat widget here too. I imagine that's a great source of those same customer service questions, right?
Totally. You got to test this one, and this one's very case by case. If you have chat support that can be quick and it does, actually help people and people are using it, I'm very okay with keeping it. If you have a team, and we've heard this from folks that we worked with, and they say, our chat support's not great. It takes people a day or two to respond, and it's probably not the best. Get rid of it. It's slowing it down, and you're actually taking people a little bit out of the funnel. If you do a good job with it, keep it. If you don't do a great job with it, just get rid of it.
Yeah. And have you seen AI tools that are there yet or not quite?
I haven't personally yet. That could just be me, right? I'm not super close with the customer service side of things, but I'm sure that there's, as a customer myself, I've used some that are decent. I do think that depending on your age demographic, there is going to be a cohort of people that always just wants to talk to a human.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, I see another, I don't know if headline's the word anymore. We're almost down to the footer, I assume, or we're a ways down the page.
We are. We're at the very end.
Are you ready to take the most simple, affordable, and effective step toward better long-term health with cleaner air? Why not? Yes, get Barnacle. Okay.
Yeah, I love ending these with, if you don't end with just a CTA button below the FAQs, then go ahead and try to have a really punchy and effective final question just to give them that last decision maker and hopefully push them over the edge if they've made it this far.
Very cool. Can you talk tools a little bit of what do you guys build these with? What's the stack look like these days?
Yeah, absolutely. For landers, specifically for Shopify, we're typically using Replo. And the reason for Replo is it allows for a ton of design, just flexibility. So really anything that you can imagine, the vast majority of it you can build on Replo. It also integrates very nicely with your store. So if you have a sale going on, if you have your dynamic carousels, all of that stuff, it'll just automatically populate, and building these pages and keeping them kind of maintained is pretty simple and easy.
That's great.
Yeah, go for it.
Can you comment a bit on, in general with design like this, it's okay, we're talking a lot about the copy, we're talking about marketing psychology, right? And then we're talking design too. You mentioned the heuristics too. Maybe I should ask you more about that. Is it a very special person that has the left brain and the right brain to do this? Is it a team that collaborates? How do you do this to bring this all together, to do the analytics, do the writing, do the design? Is that one person or is that a team?
We have a team, and I do genuinely think that's the best way to do it. Even before I ran this agency that does this, I worked in-house. And frankly, you point out exactly what the complications are with having one person do it, right? It's really hard to get that expertise amongst all of these little pieces of it that will perform well. With that, there's no way when you have one person looking at it that you can really find those little gaps, that you can find every single little opportunity. But in our case, when you have 3 to 4 to 5 people's eyes on it, you're going to find those opportunities. You're going to have some people notice what other people can't, just because even if somebody does have an okay level of expertise across all of these things, there's no way they're going to find all of the things that an expert in each of these kind of individual verticals are going to be able to identify.
Yeah, that's great. Is there one more? Do you have time to talk us through?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me show you this one real quick. All right, so this one is for a men's healthcare brand. And I think what would be the most helpful to talk about here is we went through the same process, right? So really nailing the storytelling, nailing what are the biggest values that people are attracted to when they're considering these products. And what we realized from testing headlines, testing content, was everyone just loves the scent, right? Scent is the biggest motivator to make a purchase. So we tested that. We got that kind of primarily as the focus point. As you can see, the headline here is "Get the softest, best smelling beard of your life." And we have a picture of a guy, he's smiling and he's using these beard care products. We have some quick little tidbits of information, which are cleanse, hydrate, and protect your beard, relieve dryness and itchiness, and curb flyaways and style with ease. So these are the main benefits that people were attracted to. As we keep going down, I'm going to come back to the second section. And the second section is really this collection of products. So this is a collection style landing page. Instead of having one hero SKU, we're showing the range of bundles they have. The goal with a page like this is to hopefully increase AOV. A lot of people typically start with the lowest cost bundle. In this case, it's a $39 bundle. It has 3 products inside of it. And then we have it stacked up next to a 5 product bundle and a 6 product bundle. Prices are not necessarily going up from left to right, but discounts are getting higher from left to right. So let me talk about that in a second. I'm going to show the rest of the page just to share what we have here. They have a free gift with purchase. Again, that's like one of those things that you can test. If it's low cost for you to offer, do it, right? So a $10 gift card, that can be a really nice motivator. It can push people from maybe converting to, okay, yeah, this is absolutely worth it. So it's a nice value add there. We have testimonials, which you should always have, depending on your audience.
One thing on the testimonials, great headline there. Even my dentist noticed. Is that right?
Yeah.
Even my dentist noticed. It's like,
is he?
Yeah.
Yeah, for a product that's about beards and beard care, and this testimonial is even my dentist noticed.
Are you? Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, you're pointing out something fantastic here, is be very intentional with the testimonials that you choose. If you can have ones that are really appealing just from the headline, great. Put those right in there. If you can find ones that are more fun and quirky and just more detailed, perfect. Add those.
Yeah, direct quotes. Are you pulling from Amazon sometimes, or is it usually through Shopify reviews?
It depends on the product and kind of what their mix is or their channel weight is. Typically, we're doing Shopify, but if they are a pretty Amazon-heavy brand, then we definitely add a lot of Amazon.
Love it. Love it. There's just so much on here. This is cool.
Yeah, so then I'm going to talk about this really quickly. Always be cognizant of the maturity level of your audience. For this product in particular, it's talking about beard oil. And there's a range of sophistication with self-care for men. And some of them, they don't do much. Maybe they just wash their face and they'll trim your beard and that's about it. And so this is a product to say, hey, this is going to make your beard nice and soft. It's going to have a really nice style to it. You're going to have a sleeker, fuller look, and it's not going to take very long. But we've accompanied this with a video. And this video is somebody going through the steps to make people understand this makes a big difference. It's really easy, and you're going to look fantastic. So keep that in mind as you're creating content. Some people might not. It might be intimidating. They say, oh my God, I've never used something like this. I don't know what to do. It feels like it's going to take too long. I don't have that in me. But then they see somebody doing it and they say, oh, okay, that's easy. That guy looks way better. I should do that. As you keep going down, then we have, some benefits in there. We have some more testimonials. Similarly, this audience is very TikTok and short motivated. We've tested a lot of these.
YouTube Shorts embedded. Yeah, that's pretty interesting to see that. I also noticed the washcloth and soap will never feel the same again. Almost same idea of, can't I just do something? It's not going to be the same, right? Let them know.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly. And for them, this audience is one that they are graduating. They're graduating from the basics. So we're trying to help them say, yeah, this is worth it. I've been just buying Dove and whatever I see at the drugstore. I think I want to get a little bit more upgraded in my choices. So we're telling them, hey, this is going to make a difference. Just a bar soap and a washcloth, that's not going to be your new norm. This is what's going to happen next. And then as you keep going, we have a few more sections on the YouTube Shorts, like I said. Again, talking about the benefits. We have a comparison. Again, knowing your audience, knowing that their main thing is they're going to say, hey, what is the difference between what I usually do and these guys? Is it really worth it? We have a comparison table right here. We have FAQs styled a little bit differently. And then again, at the bottom, we have a final call to action that's talking about what they're getting and trying to push them over the edge. But what I wanted to get back to is the importance of merchandising and testing this on your landing pages. So if you get a landing page and it's converting decently and you have a collection or a variety of products, don't stop there. So merchandising is the action of rearranging your products or showing how they're displayed differently and really just trying to drive up sales and ultimately conversion. And so what we ended up doing here that worked very well is I think this was the second to last version. We ended up removing the new small batch beard collection. I think that's the only difference. So there's 4 across right now. There's 4 cards for those who can't see the page. We ended up removing the 4th one because looking at the data, it wasn't really getting a whole lot of sales. But the range of sales for the first 3 cards was pretty significant, so it made sense to keep these. But our goal was to drive up AOV. And so instead of a lot of people buying just the starter bundle, we said, okay, how can we get more people buying maybe the middle one, maybe the biggest one? And so what we did was we rearranged them into what you see here, which is having a no percentage sale as the first card, a 20% off sale as the second card, and a 40% off as the third card. What's a little bit unusual in what we had originally was ordering them from least expensive to most expensive. We also tried flipping the order of most expensive to least expensive. What worked the best, even though these are not in order from most or least, it's random, is showing, hey, you get no savings here, you get 20% savings with this middle package, and you get 40% savings with this middle bundle or this last bundle. This made AOV go up by, I want to say something like 60%. Cost of acquisition dropped by 35%, and conversion rate, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was some crazy double digit.
Yeah,
as well.
Spell out where the savings are and do it in percentage. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you for showing this, Kanika.
Million ways to do it, but it's an important step.
Love it. I did want to ask, do you optimize for conversion rate or do you optimize for AOV?
Both. So we actually optimize for what's called revenue per visitor, or even better, depending on if you have your COGS information, all of that is profit per visitor. Because you want to make sure that if you optimize just for conversions, then you know what, your AOV might go down. You're not actually making more money. Same thing with AOV. If you optimize just for AOV, your conversion rate may go down. You're not making more money. Looking at it from a revenue perspective, typically that means that you're actually making more money, but the best way to do it is profit, because with e-commerce, there's always these pick and pack fees, there's shipping fees, there's other things that you have to take into account, where we've seen tests where revenue goes way, way up, but profitability actually goes down. And so keep your eyes on profit per visitor.
Love it. That's excellent. Well, thank you so much for showing these and talking us through this. I can tell you really know your stuff on landing pages. That's awesome to get some inspiration. Anything you want to leave people with or that you'd encourage them to do if they're trying to increase conversion rate on their landing pages?
Just get started. If you haven't yet, just get started. There's naysayers out there for sure that just say, I don't believe in landing pages. But the reality is saying, I don't believe in landing pages is exactly the same as saying, I don't believe in ads. You just have to get down the process, try it, and I promise you it will work.
Yeah, love it. Maybe you could talk a bit about where people can find you and who's a good person to reach out to you.
Absolutely. So you can find me personally on Twitter is probably the best way to get in touch. My handle is at Kanika, Kanika _Misra, Misra. I'm pretty responsive over there. I post some fun things that we discover through testing and all that great stuff. If you want to work with us, or if you just have other questions and want to get in touch with my team as well, you can find us at BedaBedaGrowth.com. And we're also on Twitter as a team at BedaBeda Growth.
All right. Love it. Kanika, thank you so much for coming on and sharing what's working in e-commerce.
Thanks so much for having me.